All right, now we are experts in factoring again, since that's what you've been doing the last couple of days. Now we're getting ready to have some fun with all this factoring. So we're going to multiply and divide these rational expressions, and really all we're going to do is like factor everything and then reduce common factors and write what's left. So we want to make it easy, and we're going to say we are going to factor the numerator. And if there's more than one numerator, like in multiplication or division, we're going to factor each one. Then we're going to factor our denominators. Then we're going to reduce any common factors. So think if you've got an x plus 1 in a numerator somewhere and you've got an x plus 1 in a denominator somewhere, then you can reduce those. So we're going to reduce those common factors. And we're going to write what's left over. Write whatever is left as your answer. And these are pretty cool because you've got these really complex looking equations or expressions here, and we're going to simplify them, and you'll just be amazed at how simple they will look at the very end. So you're just going to have to be able to look at each one of these individually and just start factoring. So we're going to factor the numerator, 8x cubed minus 2x squared. Well, that is just a GCF. It's got a GCF of 2x squared. So we're going to take out a 2x squared, and that would leave us with 4x minus 1. Okay, so all we did was rewrite 8x cubed minus 2x squared as a factor, which is 2x squared times 4x minus 1. Now we're going to do the same thing on the denominator. We're going to factor out an x. It's got a GCF of an x, so that would leave us with 4x minus 1. All right, so now everything is factored. So now we're going to go to step 3. We factored our numerator, we factored our denominator. Now we're going to reduce any of those common factors. And I'm going to rewrite the problem so you'll be able to see each step. So it's 2x squared times 4x minus 1 over x times 4x minus 1. Okay, so now when we talk about we're going to reduce any common factors, well look, we have a 4x minus 1 in a numerator, and we have a 4x minus 1 in a denominator. Well, anything over itself is 1. So we're just going to write that as, reduce those down to 1. Now the x squared is the same thing as saying x times x, right? And then we've got that 1x on the bottom. So we can reduce one of those x's, and that's all that we can reduce. So our last step is to write what's left. Well, what's left? We have a 2 on the top and an x on the top. So our answer is 2x. We don't have anything on the bottom other than a 1, and we don't have to write anything over 1. Okay, so now we're going to go to number 2. We're going to factor everything. Well, the numerator is 4 terms, and so when we think of 4 terms, we're going to think of grouping. So I'm going to rewrite this one down here just so that we can factor it. So if I factor a GCF out of that, I've got 2x squared. Then what I have left is x minus 3. Now if I factor my GCF out of the last 2 terms, I've got that positive 7. And it's x minus 3. So that, again, factors in 2. Remember, right, what's on the outside of those parentheses? 2x squared plus 7 times x minus 3. So we factored that numerator to 2x squared plus 7 times x minus 3. Now our x squared minus 9 in our denominator, we know that's the difference of two squares, so it just factors to x plus 3, x minus 3. All right, so next step is to reduce those common factors. So 2x squared plus 7 times x minus 3 over x plus 3, x minus 3. Reduce what we have in common, which is the x minus 3's. And last step, write what's left. So see, there's really not division going on here like those they look like. So we're just going to write 2x squared plus 7 over x plus 3 is our final answer, because that's what's left. All right, well now we have a multiplication problem. 2x squared minus x minus 3 over x squared plus x times 4x squared plus 4x over 2x minus 3. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to factor everything. All right, so first we've got to factor this 2x squared minus x minus 3. Well, you might want to use the big X method. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, negative 1, and you're dividing by 2. Well, those factors would be negative 3 and a positive 2. So that reduces to a 1. So that will factor into 2x minus 3 times x plus 1. Okay? Then our x squared plus x, we can factor out an x, GCF of x, and we have x plus 1 left. Okay, times, let's factor the 4x squared plus 4x. Well, that has a GCF of 4x. And that would leave us with x plus 1. Okay, and if we try to factor 2x minus 3, it does not factor. So let's just write 2x minus 3. Okay, so now next step is to reduce those common factors. Well, we have it, and remember, you can reduce any numerator with any denominator in multiplication. Okay, so we're going to factor, reduce this 2x minus 3 with the 2x minus 3, the x plus 1 with this x plus 1. Okay, so now this x plus 1 is gone, so this other x plus 1 in our numerator, he still has to stay there. There would have to be 2 of those in a denominator somewhere in order to factor that. This x can factor out with that x. So let's write what's left. In our numerator, we've got 4 times x plus 1. We have nothing left in our denominator, so there's your final answer. Okay, so once again, step 1, factor everything. So 4x squared minus 4x has a GCF of 4x, and that's going to leave us with x minus 1. X squared plus 2x minus 3. If you need to use big X on that, that's fine. It's going to factor to x plus 3 times x minus 1 times, all right, x squared plus x minus 6. Again, you can use big X. It's going to factor to x plus 3 times x minus 2. Remember, you can pause the video and factor these out on your own, or make sure that you know how to factor to just get the hang of that again. And then that 4x, we're just going to rewrite it. So now our next step is let's just start canceling out these common factors. Well, we have a 4x and a 4x here, so those get to cancel. X minus 1 with the x minus 1, x plus 3 with this x plus 3. The only thing we have left is that x minus 2. So it factors that, simplifies down 2x minus 2. All right, so our next one, example 5, is a division problem. So remember, dividing fractions is easy as pie. Remember, this is like over 1, right? Anything like whole type number is all, anything by itself is over 1. So dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. So I'm going to rewrite this as a multiplication problem. X squared plus 4x plus 4 all over x plus 3. Then we're going to flip that second one and turn it into a multiplication problem. So that becomes 1 over x plus 2. Okay, so all I did was flip the second one and turn it into a multiplication problem. Well, now we know how to multiply. We know we go factor everything. All right, so x squared plus 4x plus 4 will factor into x plus 2 times x plus 2. X plus 3 doesn't factor, so we're just going to leave it as an x plus 3 over times 1 times x plus 2, which doesn't factor either. So all we can do is cancel out or reduce one of those x plus 2's with one of those with the x plus 2 on the bottom. Then we're going to write what's left, which is x plus 2 in our numerator. It's the only thing that's left, because if it's times 1, it's still going to be x plus 2 over x plus 3. And that is your final answer. And those are just beautiful to reduce down to something so simple. All right, so again, number 6, it's another division problem. So let's rewrite it as a multiplication. Remember that you can only flip the second one and write it as a multiplication. So it's going to be 2x4 minus 32 over 2x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, so now we've got to factor all of this. And yes, that's going to take some time. Okay, so let's see. In order to factor 2x squared minus x minus 3, might want to do big X. So that gives me a negative 6 and a negative 1. Dividing both by 2. So that will be a negative 3 and a positive 2, which reduces to 1. So that 2x squared minus x minus 3 factors to 2x minus 3 times x plus 1. Okay, the 2x squared plus 8. All we have is a GCF of 2, so that leaves us with x squared plus 4. Remember, that is not the difference of two squares, because that is a plus 4, not a minus 4. X squared plus 4. So it's as far as we can factor that. Okay, so 2x squared, x to the 4th minus 32. We have a GCF of 2, so let's take that out, and that would leave us with x to the 4th minus 16. So that one is the difference of two squares. So x squared plus 4 and x squared minus 4. Well, the x squared minus 4 can reduce some more, so that becomes 2 times x squared plus 4 times that x squared minus 4 reduces to x plus 2, x minus 2. Whew, that is long. X squared plus 4 times x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay, that is 2x to the 4th minus 32 factored. So now our last one, 2x squared plus x minus 6. It's a negative 6 over positive 1 divide by 2. So that would be positive 3 and negative 2, which reduces to negative 1. So we've got 2x plus 3 and x minus 1. Okay, so that whole thing factored is all of this. So now we can start reducing any common factors that we have. Now look, we have a 2x minus 3 on the top here and a 2x plus 3 on as a denominator here. Those are not the same, so you cannot reduce those. Same thing with that x plus 1 and that x minus 1. If they've got to look exactly the same. So we can reduce those 2. We can reduce the x squared plus 4. And then we have the x plus 2 and the x minus 2. Nope, nothing else reduces. So this final answer, write what's left. What all is on the top? We have got 2x minus 3 times x plus 1 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. All of that is on the top. Okay, on the bottom, 2x plus 3 times x minus 1. So that one is still a very long answer, but it's a lot shorter than what it was before. So, okay. So now, here's a tricky one. All right, remember, order of operations says we go left to right. So that division, we're going to turn that into a multiplication and then multiply it times this. So this expression will be 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 over 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Now times, I've got to flip this one, x squared minus 4 over x cubed plus 1 times, we're not going to flip this one because he's not division, he's still multiplication. So we're going to rewrite him the exact way. Okay, so we've written it as a total multiplication problem. Now we're going to factor everything. Okay, so we've got to factor 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. 5 divided by 2, so that'll be 3 times 2. Which is 1. Okay, so we've got 2x plus 3 over x plus 1. Now, 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Adds up to be 7. Divide by 2, so that will be 4 and 3. This one reduces to a 2. So that is x plus 2 times 2x plus 3. Okay, there's the first one factored. X squared minus 4 factored is x plus 2. Difference of 2 squares, x minus 2. Okay, x cubed plus 1. All right, that is a sum of cubes. So do you remember the rules from the last worksheet? So x plus 1, and then we would have x squared. Oops, that would be a minus. Remember our acronym, SOAP. That should be a minus. Same sign for this one, opposite sign. 2 multiplied together is 1 times x, so that's just x. Last one is always positive, which is 1 squared, which is still just 1. Okay, so x squared minus x plus 1, that will not factor because nothing would add up to be a negative 1 that multiplies to be a 1. And the last one, 2x minus 4, we can factor out a 2. That leaves us with x minus 2. Okay, now everything's factored. We're ready to start reducing. So I just usually go in order of my numerators, so that 2x plus 3 reduces, x plus 1 reduces. I've got an x plus 2. I have an x minus 2. And this x squared minus x plus 1 reduces, and that is everything. So your final answer here is 1. Remember, anything over itself is always equal to 1, so that's just a bunch of 1s on top, which all multiplies out to be 1, and same thing on the bottom. Oh, no, I've got a 2 on the bottom. Let's change that. So 1 over 2. That 2, forgot about it. I didn't see it. So 1/2. That is my answer, 1/2. Okay, have fun on this.